And I was like, this man is a white supremacist. So my humanity does not matter. And I was going to engage. I was going to be like, and then I thought, I don't have to give my energy up that way. So I'm just going to quietly unfriend this person. I don't have to keep any of those people in my life if I feel like my actual humanity is of little worth to them. And they probably would not contextualize it in that way. If your ability to say what you need to say is couched in my disenfranchisement or my, what's the word I'm looking for? Oppression. I don't need you in my life.
Every little kid is taught that they shouldn't talk to strangers. I mean, do you talk to strangers? How do you know if a stranger is worth speaking to? Hey kid, don't talk to strangers. Where's my daughter at? I'm gonna go get my daughter in here in a minute and tell her she's 3 weeks old, but she needs to know this.
A feeling is an emotional state that is usually, something was a catalyst to make it happen. A fact is something that can be proven and, yeah, I think I want to end it with that, period. Maybe what the phrase should probably be, that is my opinion, so that is what my conviction is. I can be convicted about my opinion, and I can also live in a world where I'm not exposed to anybody else's opinion in a way that I have to contend with. That's where things are dangerous. Like, I feel like part of what makes me convicted about my opinions is having exposure to other ideas and then sort of sifting through that stuff. If someone's opinion is grounded in oppression, it inherently makes it questionable to me.
In the Circuit Court of the 18th Judicial Circuit in and for Seminole County, Florida, State of Florida versus George Zimmerman. Verdict, we the jury find George Zimmerman not guilty.
I think it says there's one set of consequences for one group and another consequences for another group. And so it says that we want to talk about equality and we want to talk about being like having the most fair justice system or whatever, and that's always been questionable. My understanding of how things came to be was striving towards a goal of something greater, not locking down some things and they never change, right? So, the march this weekend happened, the anti-gun. I forget what, March for Our Lives, yeah. So that happened this weekend, and I saw a little kid with a poster, and it said, "When the Second Amendment was written, I was considered 3/5 of a person." Right? Same. I was considered 3/5 of a person, and so like all things change, you know. Or do they?
The shooting last month sparking outrage. Police have been chasing Clark following reports of someone breaking into cars. Officers found only a cell phone.
Because in fact, perhaps, if it's easier for me to get shot with a cell phone in my hand versus,
me
with a gun in your hand.
Are you muted or on?
Muted, but I can.
Muted?
I had a lead by example, talented 10th mentality. Like, that's how I thought I was supposed to move through the world. Like, my parents had struggled, so I didn't have to struggle, so I could just be. And that is not the world in which I actually lived in.
Look at his leg. That boy's leg look broke. Oh, his leg broke and y'all dragging him like that. Right.
I'm talking about as a Black person, as a woman, as an artist. Like, those three things they make up me, and they sometimes shift. Sometimes they're in a hierarchy, sometimes they're in a sort of horizontal line, sometimes they're a triangle, sometimes they're like this floating orb, of constantly shifting things, but they're always coexisting. I mean, I'm sure to a certain degree it's like me being a grown-ass woman and like consciousness raised and that kind of thing. But I think also it's just like, I thought by the time I got to 45, there were things that I wouldn't still have to be explaining to people.
But instead of 14 years, a judge has ruled Turner will only spend 6 months in jail, eligible for parole in 3 months, citing the defendant's age and lack of criminal record at sentencing.
I feel like I have to keep explaining rape culture to people, like, you know, and that's really weird to me. You know, that's really strange to me. Yeah. Because I was born in 72. You know, I feel like girls are less safe now.
His life will never be the one that he dreamed about and worked so hard to achieve. That is a steep price to pay for 20 minutes of action out of his 20-plus years of life. Turner's father now apologizing for his choice of words.
I don't think a day goes by where there's not some degree of harassment unless I stay in the house. And even then, I could stay in the house and get some weird rando sending me a friend request on Facebook.
What do they say?
I'd like to get to know you, pretty lady. Like, just weird shit, you know? Or the fact that, like, in my online dating profile, the people who enjoy me the most are 65-year-old men. That's who contacts me the most. That's crazy to me. I'm not saying, like, you can't have a May December thing, but, like, that many men, the fact that men my age don't date women my age, I'm, like, way on all the tangents right now. But, so the trans situation, issues, like, the fact that people are, like, in, like, straight denial of, like, the existence of other people, and that they think it's optional, like, they think that, like who chooses to struggle, you know? Look at someone who's, like, maybe, like, the most celebrity trans person, you know, Caitlyn Jenner. Who goes through their whole life and then makes that change if it's not real? And that whole idea of, like, I can just choose to deny your truth, that's where I have problems. I don't think I get to deny your truth in terms of your lived experience. That said, your truth should not oppress me. And Caitlyn Jenner living Caitlyn Jenner's life oppresses no one. This is where I try to humble myself and, like, check my own privilege, right? Like, as a woman, do I consider myself a target? Yes. I consider trans women to be more of a target than I am. Like, or a different kind of target and their lives are more in danger at this moment to me than my own is. I just, you know, on a very basic level, like, just straight logic. I pay the same taxes. I follow the same laws. In theory, my vote counts the same as someone else's. The fact that anyone else with that, and that's all of us who are citizens of this country, naturalized or born into it, the fact that there's a discussion of someone else's humanity and rights when all of that is real, like, that's what I was like on a very basic level. Even if I wasn't, you know, even if I didn't, I hate to use the word ally because I think it's a problematic word, and, you know, but even if I didn't consider myself an ally, and many of my loved ones are gay, on a very basic level, like, gay marriage, which is just marriage. Heads up, gay marriage is just marriage. I'm like, if you pay taxes and you file the same law, who gets to say what you can't do? Like, that's insane to me, you know? And then I would see people say stuff like, oh, well, you know, I should be able to marry a chair or, you know, a stuffed animal. And I was like, don't dehumanize people. This is about a person and another person wanting to be committed on their own dollar and live their damn lives. Don't dehumanize this shit. Please stop comparing it to other shit like that. I think that aside from needing to be kinder to ourselves, I am also a believer in, like, you can define your life however you want your life to be. And my role is to not judge that unless you're doing harm to someone else. Even if, like, your choice making, like, I'm like, oh, I feel questionable, but but right. Keep that shit to myself. Like, my greatest flaw is my greatest flaw is my greatest asset, which is that I'm a really direct person. And so I'm gonna say, no, that's some bullshit. Like, I had a argument on Facebook with someone who I've known since I was a child. We went to the same dance school. And this really hurt my heart a lot. We were talking about, I posted something, I don't know what it was about, but it was something about, like, this shit's wrong and it should be more like this. I don't know, it could have been anything. And she piped in and said, oh, you just gotta like stay in a place of love. And I don't believe that bullshit. Like that stuff enrages me. That enrages me. Because love is not gonna keep me from getting shot. Love is not gonna keep me from getting raped. Love is not gonna raise the minimum wage. Like none of those things can love fix, right? So miss me with that love bullshit. She said, basically, I'm burning incense and I'm being positive. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm donating to causes and I'm gonna take the Undoing Racism workshop. And I was like, these are the things I'm actually doing. And you're calling me out when you're burning hemp? Like what? Like what? The respectability politics will make you think 6 is 9, right? She went off. Like it was actually crazy. And bless them, I had some lovely white women friends who stepped in and said, deflect towards us. Don't put your shit on this black woman. Because she was so in her own space that she could not understand that other people's lives were literally in danger. Like the lack of compassion in that was mind-blowing to me as someone who, like, as a kid, I thought of as a sister. I saw a thing on Twitter the other day that said, a black child's worth should not be based on their ability to be exceptional. And that's, like, so real to me, right? Because that's that talented 10th mentality. Like, the cream of the crop will rise up and, and feeling like you have to be above everyone and be the best representation of your blackness or whatever, and you don't just get to be you, and whatever that means, with your freakiness or your strangeness or your boringness or your basicness, whatever that is, you don't just get to be that. And I think that is always a place that I'm operating from. My right and anyone else's right to be.
Western Edition, good evening. It began as an ordinary school day, and it was almost over when gunfire erupted this afternoon. This deadly mass shooting happened in Parkland, Florida, about 20 miles northwest of Fort Lauderdale at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School, attended by about 3,000 students. A suspect was taken into custody about a mile from the scene. We're going to have much more on him in just a moment. We do have extensive coverage tonight, beginning with Manuel Bojorquez in Parkland. We do caution you, some of the video you're about to see is graphic.
I mean, what happened is horrific, and I am team less guns. Let's be real clear with that. The thing that really moved me, though, was seeing that white kid go to that black school and be like, you guys have been experiencing what we experienced for years, and we recognize that you're not getting the time.
The media focus on school shootings and oftentimes be biased towards white privileged students. Many of these communities are disproportionately affected by gun violence, but they don't get the same share of media attention that we do.
And I was like, okay, now I can have a conversation. Because if one person's not free, nobody's free, I just feel like that should be the fundamental basis for the starting point for all the conversations.
We must stand up together as a unified front as Americans and fight for change, because no one else will.
I don't know, maybe because maybe because I haven't had and will not be having my own children. I'm terrified for these kids that they are, I feel like in my generation growing up, we knew that it was worse and that it was going to get better. But I feel like these kids were told, it's better now, and it's not.
Gaslighting.
And that is, in a way, worse. Because there's no hope in that.
Our school was racked with 2 tragedies this year. It's not okay.
So if you have been affected by gun violence, please raise your hand to honor those you have lost.
Our generation, we were told how great the 60s were and how wasn't it sad that we were born too late, and they patronized us and they shook their fingers at us that we were not activists the way they were, and we were growing up in the go-go 80s and the microwave generation, and we didn't have enough idealism in us and we didn't know how to change the world. And they fucked the world. They fucked the world economically, they fucked the world, the ecology, they fucked everything. And what's interesting for me in observing them was that I didn't grow up with boomers because my parents were born in the 30s. So they're before that generation. My parents were grown-ups when they had children. They weren't learning how to be, they weren't growing up with me. And no offense to some of my friends' parents, but that was a real distinct, I was aware of that. I remember the inauguration of Obama and being on the phone with my dad, and we were kind of like weeping together on the phone, you know? And I was like, I remember feeling like, oh, I'm so happy for my parents. They got to see this in their lifetime. And then the president after him. Like, I believe, I'm not saying this is a fact, I believe, no Obama, no Trump.